The biggest dangers law enforcement is facing across the country. Our studio is packed with men and women in blue and their families who share in their journeys. And our guests are leadership, past and present. Some of the key voices as we look at how to protect the protectors. Before we get started, here are the facts and the reasons why police say they are crushed under the weight of feeling targeted in their own communities.
Oh, they not stopping! Oh, my God!
The nation outraged by videos that went viral over the summer. In New York City, civilians seen dousing cops with water, milk, and hurling objects at the men and women in blue patrolling the streets. In Philadelphia, onlookers caught on tape taunting officers engaged in an active standoff with a gunman who shot 6 policemen. What's driving all this? Some say they feel police are targeting them. It's become an emotional national debate. Tonight, we get into it. Plus, one man's inspiring journey to recover after being severely wounded in the line of duty.
Good job!
In this network exclusive, he and his family are here to share their story. But not all injuries from the job are visible to the eye. Shocking statistics about depression, PTSD, and suicide, known as the silent killer among the rank and file. The nationwide effort to protect those who have sworn to protect us. Town Hall America, Police Emergency, starts now. Great audience. In recent days, we've heard from so many of you across the country. So my team and I have assembled some great people to be here. Joe Gamaldi, the National Vice President of the Fraternal Order of Police, the largest police union in America, with more than 346,000 members nationwide. And New York State Assemblyman Mike LiPetri, a Republican who introduced legislation just in July that would make it a felony to attack cops with water or any other substance. Gentlemen, thank you so very much for being here.
Thank you for having me on.
I want to start with a very basic question. Joe, with so many that you lead at the FOP, are police, in fact, under attack?
Harris, absolutely 100% we are under attack. There is a police officer shot in this country every 29 hours, okay? We have had 241 police officers shot. That is a 24% increase from last year. And not just the violence against police officers, but we're seeing these viral incidents. In the NYPD, we had officers getting thrown water on them, buckets thrown on them, and they saw a 12% increase in the injuries of officers the next quarter after that. We have police officers in Philadelphia responding to where 6 of their fellow brothers and sisters were shot, and they're being laughed at, screamed at. We have officers being laughed at when they're responding to one of their brothers and sisters being murdered. This is happening all across the country. Just in Houston the other day, someone took an Instagram post of pointing a gun at a police officer. It's completely disgusting.
Yeah, the things that are going viral are there for all to see. And sometimes, I know from talking with you, Assemblyman, you feel that it's part of kind of a larger conversation that people are having, an anti-cop rhetoric.
What you're seeing today, you're seeing these left-wing radical Democrats, these champagne socialists, I call them, from the presidential candidates running on the Democrat line on down, who have sounded the death knell on the police and community relationship. They drive a wedge between the police and the community they allegedly represent. It's disgusting.
You know, it's interesting because you wouldn't think of police officers necessarily as igniting anything political, but we are in such a politically charged environment. And we've seen the current president tackle criminal justice reform. We're seeing Democrats talk about it on the presidential trail. And in fact, just this weekend, they were at a forum and some of them were talking. Here's Bernie Sanders from the weekend when he was asked by a young black man about how to deal with police officers. This is how Bernie Sanders answered.
If I'm your son, what advice would you give me the next time I be pulled over by a police officer?
I would respect what they are doing so that you don't get shot in the back of the head. I would be very cautious. If you were my son, in terms of dealing with that police officer, but I also defend my rights and know my rights.
Joe, that is tough, and you lead so many. So what do you do with your police officers?
Well, let me first say Bernie Sanders is a complete joke. Everybody in this room knows it, and everybody across this country knows it. He got no shot being the next president of this United States. But here's what he's doing. Everybody asked us in the community, build a bridge. Build a bridge with the community. But yet we have people like Bernie Sanders who are tearing that bridge down on the other side. And you know what the fact of the matter is? The statistics don't support things like Bernie Sanders is saying. There was a study of all fatal police shootings from 2015 done by Michigan State University and the University of Maryland, and it found that in 99% of the time, the person that was shot was armed with a weapon, and that there was absolutely no racial bias involved in any of the shootings. It's completely ridiculous that he would say something like this.
So the tough thing in all of this, and I know that you've got legislation that we want to get to, Assemblyman, but the tough thing in all of this is that there have been incidents in recent history, and I know you and I talked earlier on the phone, Joe, about Ferguson, Missouri. And so I want to just get your take on where we are in some of those instances, a few bad apples, if you will, but it taints everything.
What we're seeing instead is that we're having politicians cast a broad brush. And instead of actually isolating a few instances, instead they wish to denounce the police as a whole, dehumanize the police department, rather than recognizing that these are men and women in the community. They're part of their mothers and fathers, their nieces and nephews, their sons and daughters. And they're people that are involved in their community day in and day out who only want to do one thing, that's serve and protect their communities.
All right. As I mentioned, we have a lot of rank and file in the police audience, or rather police in the audience tonight. Ralph Friedman, a former NYPD detective. Ralph, where are you? You're right there. I know you have some strong feelings from the videos that went viral this summer.
They're very hard to watch. I mean, they make me sick when I watch them. And I feel it's because of the liberal agenda put out by the politicians today, especially in New York City and New York State. They're letting cop killers out of jail. They're changing laws. They're not enforcing quality of life. They're handcuffing the police. The city should be happy, or the state too, that they have men and women that are willing to do this job. They're trained very well. There's great technology, and they're willing to do the job, but they're being handcuffed and blindfolded and not allowed to be police. They're worried more or less of like the Pantaleo effect. You do your job, and you get fired, or they're going to lose their benefits or maybe go to jail or be sued.
Anything that either one of you wants to say to our audience member?
Well, you know, there is absolutely a Pantaleo effect going right now in law enforcement, because we have police officers who are going out there doing the job every single day. They're putting their lives on the line for their communities they love, by the way. And then they have their actions second-guessed at every step. And what we really need is the leaders in law enforcement from across this country, and I'm talking about police chiefs, I'm talking about police commissioners, to get off their asses and back the hardworking men and women of law enforcement out there and push back on the anti-police rhetoric and the false narratives that have dominated the headlines for years. They need to step up to the plate. I know the FOP is going to step up to the plate and defend our members, but we need all hands on deck.
When you and I spoke... There we go. When you and I spoke earlier, you mentioned a different kind of effect. You called it the Ferguson effect. I want you to talk about that for just a second.
Well, listen, when we first talk about Ferguson, let's make clear. That was a false narrative. Hands up, don't shoot never happened, okay? Obama's Justice Department said that. They cleared that officer of any wrongdoing. There was absolutely no hands up, don't shoot. But it has carried on. That was not attacked right from the get-go, that was a false narrative, and now it's carried. So every time there's a police-involved shooting or any time there's a use of force, of course it goes viral, and there are journalists out there, and I pause to call them journalists because I'm not quite sure they are, but what they do is they write clickbait headlines, they don't include all the facts, all to try to paint law enforcement as the bad guys, and it's completely ridiculous, and it needs to stop. They need to have objectivity when they talk about police officers.
Before we go, your legislation, what is it and when is it?
What it is that it criminalizes, makes it an E-felony for anyone that intentionally assaults an officer by throwing or spraying water or any other substance on an on-duty police officer or peace officer.
What was the tipping point for you?
What it comes down to is that in order to restore civility in our society, you cannot tolerate incivility. And when I saw these people that are dumping water on our officers, which is damaging equipment and taking our officers off the streets, that means our communities are less safe. Nobody wants that, regardless of race, color, creed, national origin. When our communities are less safe, that's a problem for anybody.
All right, gentlemen, Thank you so very much, Assemblyman LiPetri and Joe Gamaldi, Vice President of the FOP nationally. Thank you. Very much for starting off the conversation. All right, let's get everybody involved in a show of hands. How many of you in our studio feel the tension today between police and their communities is at the highest level in decades? Wow. Well, even the guests on set are raising their hands. We need to talk about this, and I'm really glad you're all here. It's a word that keeps coming up on social media as you are chatting, taking your seats tonight here in the studio. I heard you saying it. It is trust. One Texas police department is looking to rebuild trust after one of its white police officers shot a black woman inside her own home. This raising questions about training and recruiting top-level talent. First, an inspirational story of survival and perseverance. A police officer shot in the head by a burglary suspect is beating the odds. They've traveled here from Missouri to tell America their story. As we head to break, a prayer and memory. We remember the 33 men and women in blue killed by gunfire so far this year. Moment can change everything. That is, if you even survive it. A police officer in Missouri knows this all too well. And now I want you to know his incredible story of courage, strength, and an unmatched will to survive.
757 has responded, vehicle accident, Harvard Police Department 2101 Jeffco Boulevard.
December 5th is when he was shot.
Officer O'Connor was transporting a suspected burglar back in late 2017. During the trip, the suspect shot him in the back of the head. The bullet shattered the officer's skull and left this father of four hospitalized for what looked like indefinitely.
So we never knew if he was going to be able to do anything again. It's been really hard on the kids. It's really hard still. It's a big adjustment.
Ryan underwent intensive rehabilitation in Colorado, where he made rapid progress and defied the odds.
Nice, Ryan. Good job.
In just a matter of weeks, Ryan managed to stand up on his own.
Stepfather, Mr. O'Connor, is here tonight.
And in a few more weeks, he surprised his stepson by showing up at his high school graduation. Eventually, all that hard work and faith paid off. Ryan, little by little, began walking. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Ryan O'Connor and his wife, Barbara. Their four sons are here as well, and in studio we have Aiden, 19, and Kieran, 13. Young gentlemen, thank you for being here. Their brothers Quinn and Cullen are 8 and 6, and they're having snacks in the green room. So that's great. Ryan, did you ever think that this is where you would be on a night like tonight?
No, it was... I can't describe it.
A long journey, I know. Barbara, how did you find out what had happened to Ryan?
Our two youngest sons and I had been out Christmas shopping, and we were actually driving in the town where Ryan was working, and the road was closed, and I suddenly saw an ambulance flanked by 4 police cars turn directly in front of me, and something in my heart told me that it was him inside. And when the road was closed, I sent a text message to him and just said, "Please tell me you're okay." And I didn't get a response.
He survived, but your life has changed forever. You were in that hospital. You're still visiting centers across the country to get medical help. What is your journey now?
You know, every day really is just a focus on living in the moment. It's something that we learned through what's happened with Ryan that, you know, we have to be grateful for every minute. He does something spectacular almost every day, thankfully, and we're just grateful. We just focus on every day.
Ryan, spectacular began a long time ago for you. You chose to protect and serve. Why did you want to be an officer? It's okay. I know this is tough.
It's just honorable and doing the right thing and all of the above, and it's just thrilling, I guess. Yeah.
I know you have your children with you, and you, Barbara, have told me, you and Ryan, your journey to this point. What is something that you would want to say to your boys at this point?
Thank you for sticking by us and for everything you do for both of us every day, for keeping our family together. We're very proud of you.
You are working with an organization that's been put together by actor Gary Sinise, and we have some pictures of a special home that they're building for you. If we pop those up, I want you to tell me, if you can, a little bit about what is needed to get through this and what kind of needs are being met across the country that you want to maybe bolster and let other people know about.
Sure. The Gary Sinise Foundation approached us when I initially received the phone call. I thought it was just for well wishes and, you know, hey, we're thinking of you and your husband and your family. And when they told us they wanted to build us a smart home for Ryan, I was speechless. And that journey in planning this home has been absolutely amazing. The things that they're putting into this home for Ryan will help him regain his independence, will give him back his dignity. You know, every day the challenges that he faces are things we take for granted. Showering, grooming, getting dressed, making a meal, all things that we do every day without thinking about it. It's challenging for him, and this home will change that.
At the end of the segment, we'll give people some notes on what they can do to help. I do want to draw attention to the zipper, if we can show that on camera. Those are the 33 men and women who have died in the line of duty in 2019, so we are scrolling that. By gunfire, I should mention. I want to go back to Aiden and Karen, if I can, real quickly. Something that you would want to say to your dad. And good to see you tonight, boys.
Oh, we're happy to be here. If I could say anything to Ryan, it's just we're proud of you. And we couldn't ask for a better role model. Myself included, you know, he's been the person that I've looked up to my whole life. That's why I've been in the police exploring program for 5 years now. And, you know, he's just always been a rock of the family. And to see him go through something so difficult but come out of it so strong, it's just inspiring. And it motivates me to have the same character he does.
Wow. A legacy point of service in law enforcement. And Ryan, thank you for making the journey from Arnold, Missouri. I should tell our audience, because we have spoken about this city before, you started out, or previously, were a police officer in Ferguson, Missouri.
Yeah, and then...
Yep, Arnold.
And then, wait a minute, and then... It's Ferguson, and then... Arnold, and then...
In St. Louis County.
Yeah. St. Louis County, that's right, that's right.
Gotcha. So continued service.
Thank
you for being such a great example.
Thank you.
Both of you. And your boys are lovely.
Thank you.
You may want to know how you can make a difference, so here that is right now. Building homes for families of injured officers like the OConnors. Go to GarySiniseFoundation.org. When Town Hall America returns, healing the great divide between those who serve and citizens.
These days, we're all stressed.